Come on, YouTube. Is YouTube being stupid right now? I think so. Okay, so the stream might not be working on YouTube right now.
Which is perhaps why I have Joker so high on this list. Although I would highly recommend.
Oh no, it looks
watching
like we're back on YouTube now.
Especially
Okay.
The King of Comedy, if you want to understand where the comparisons, criticisms, and references are coming from. This film feels like the season finale
Avengers
of a show that's had
Endgame.
some really good episodes.
That's my hot take.
But overall was a mostly consistent, fun bit of pulpy pop culture. There's such a feeling of finality to Endgame. The fact there's no tease in the end credits is actually kind of a big deal for one of these movies. They were actually finally able to finish something with conclusiveness. With multiple contracts running out, we knew there were going to be casualties. But we didn't know exactly how it was going to go down. The electricity around this movie was fairly palpable.
Thank you,
I'm
Andy.
not like the biggest fan in the world of the MCU or anything, but even I was sucked into the excitement for the unprecedented level of scope.
It's not going to age well. That's one of the big things because it worked for right now because of the hype. But in the long run, I think people are just going to skip these movies further down the line because they're not going to have that connection of that real life time waiting.
I'm not head over heels for this movie, but I actually think that given its intent, it pretty much knocks it out of the park. Tony Stark and Captain America get perfect endings for their characters. I couldn't ask for a better way to conclude their stories. There was something genuinely touching about seeing Tony and Captain grapple with the years worth of build-up of flaws, choices, and mistakes that have all built to this point. A standout moment for me being the silly but poignant interaction Tony has with his dad in the past. It's nice to see how much these characters have developed over time. It makes your investment feel like it was all worth it. This is the great payoff.
I don't know, Thor Ragnarok is a modern classic. Thor Ragnarok is great. They actually made that a good standalone movie.
They tend to be quite easy to relate to. At the end of it all, Captain America just wanted to spend his entire life dancing with Hayley Atwell and probably Hulk smashing her every night. And there's something beautiful about that. I really think the Ant-Man movies are incredibly forgettable.
So, Tony, we noticed, you didn't really do anything in those years after you went back for Black Rights. What's that all about, huh? You want to tell us what you were doing in the 60s, Captain America, Look, I just wanted to go back and live. Shut up, Tony! We know what you are!
On my first viewing, I have to admit, I was fairly disappointed by the time travel reveal. Fearing a
fuck time travel. Time travel is a fucking horrible story thing unless you're subverting stuff with it.
It is something that I find easier to wrap my head around, and I really can't get too annoyed at the fact they're traveling through time when we're talking about the same universe that has magic people that can open portals with sentient capes and radiated superhumans and duck people. Like the way they pair up certain characters,
it was pretty much like as soon as they were gonna do time travel to fix everything, my brain just tuned out at that point. Just like, okay, there's no story value here. They're doing time travel. They Dragon Balled it.
To return to classic moments from earlier movies, even if one of them is from arguably one of the weakest Marvel movies yet, Thor: The Dark World. Despite how extended and tonally ranged this movie is, it somehow manages to build up to an Aquaman level of true hype that breaks the realm of epic scale. And we're just at the point where there's so much shit happening on screen, but it's not so crazy that you can't tell what's going on. Just like Infinity War, the action is strongest when it's kept small
fun,
scale
but,
and precise.
you know, for me, whenever they do 3D computer graphics, like, I'm a big video gamer, so it doesn't feel like they're making a movie at that point. It feels like they're just wanting to imitate what video games already do, what Hideo Kojima was doing 10 years ago, so they're behind the times.
Does rob a couple of major pieces of tension, weight, and drama from the movie for me, because she can just show up and solve any problem. It is still a bizarre choice for them to establish a new character.
Yeah, the way they used Captain Marvel in the Avengers Endgame movie too was just like, wow, I do not care about this person.
Virtually no personal stakes in the conflict beyond her vague stance as a cosmic super soldier. I know it's only a couple moments, but this really does bug me. There's gonna be time for Captain Marvel in the future. I'm fine with you establishing this character in this universe. It's just so strange to me that they chose to wedge her in now.
Hey, Peter Parker.
The scene where Hawkeye and Black Widow compete to commit suicide is kind of a miss for me. I like the emotion of where it concludes, but there is a level of silliness that stops
I know.
me connecting to it.
That whole scene, I was just like, I don't fucking care. One of you die so we can move on from this fake emotional beat.
Scenes. I'm glad the Avengers theme was able to breathe and wasn't hidden away like in Age of Ultron. Honestly, I'd be happy if this was the last film in the MCU. It's a fitting ending that rewards your investment based on your level of interacting with the previous movies. The fact that
I wonder if they're gonna hire an Asian actor to play Hulk like it is in the comics now. Because in the comics now, there's a character called Amadeus Cho, who was previously a super genius character.
I was made for this.
If anything, this is an appraisal of the organizational skills of the higher-ups, who had to figure out the logistics of how something like this would even be possible to pull off in the first place. Despite my nitpicks and gripes,
yeah, it's like the biggest compliment of this movie is that, like, wow, they actually managed to pull off this total bullshit.
Good live-action adaptation of famous Marvel comic storylines. I just want to quickly shout out the boys,
like,
because I think it's relevant to the video.
There's something so wholesome about, like, Thanos, even despite being, like, a murderous universe killer.
The premise of evil or corrupt superheroes and greatly
he just,
its own story. It's a highly political and edgy narrative that runs over a concise 8 episodes. The edginess could be a little bit much at times for me, but the
what was I gonna say?
Misery that
Avengers or something. I forget. I'm paying attention to what he's saying about this now.
Absolute maniac, who is essentially what would happen if Onision had superpowers. The effects are pretty good considering the scale of the production, and overall it felt like a pretty nice break from the genre trappings for the sake of a tone that vaguely reminds me of what films or shows like Kick-Ass, Watchmen, Hancock, Heroes are all going for. It even reminded me a little bit of The Matrix at points, with the vigilante group going against these seemingly impossible odds. I would say this show is better than most of the superhero movies released in 2019, so check it out if the premise seems epic to you. Remember the controversy of Scorsese saying that Marvel movies are like theme park rides? If you actually read his points in his New York Times article, you'll learn that he's more lamenting how difficult it is for independent projects to get funded because of the homogenized nature of how trends like superheroes have completely engulfed.
Like, I sat down and read it because I knew Martin Scorsese doesn't just talk shit, okay? Martin Scorsese is a professional Hollywood director. He's not a guy about to go out there and shoot his mouth off about stupid shit. Like, he has consistently and regularly been a director that challenges a lot of norms and that, you know, is in... just everybody ganging up on him just because they like their superhero movies was just so cringe. It was so stupid.
That Martin Scorsese does not enjoy Avengers Infinity War, and I don't really know what reality you're living in. It's okay to like these movies and still have a problem with the follow the leader mentality that the film industry is known for. Because, you know, theme parks can still be a lot of fun. It's time to look to the near future to see what's to come. Seeing as the pandemic kind of fucked everything, it appears as if
oddly I think animation might get a boost because of the pandemic, because animated production is actually a lot easier to do during isolation than actual filming.
This might turn out to be one of the worst years for these movies in a long time. That's just my prediction though. What a lineup. On the other hand, for every loss that might have brought
I'm kind of getting a wish, like for a long time I've kind of wished they'd...
Justice League. We did it, everybody.
What?
I'm pleased that I'll have to watch Bloodshot though. Well, that's sort of it from me for now. Let me know your own lists in the comments below, and follow me on Letterboxd so you can judge my taste and be mean to me. We'll see you on the next video. Bye!
Oh dear.
Adapted into the iconic TV show Little House
Violet Dragoness, hello, thank you. I hope you enjoyed the stream.
Were based on the fascinating life she lived. Through a plague of locusts, to becoming a retired schoolteacher at the age of 18, Laura Ingalls Wilder led a life worthy of the small screen. Today, we're looking at the true life of Laura Ingalls Wilder. But first, before we load up the wagons and tell Pa dinner is ready, be sure to click on that subscribe button below and let us know in the comments what other famous authors you want to learn more about.
They don't make them anymore, bruh. These are spicy, fiery habanero Doritos. They don't make them anymore. Bullshit.
Laura Ingalls Wilder, if alive, would have made for a fascinating test subject for 23andMe, with results coming back 1% presidential. Laura was a distant relative of President
Your
Franklin
emojis are
Delano
great,
Roosevelt.
Violet.
In the 6 Degrees of FDR, Wilder's great-grandfather, Samuel Ingalls, married Margaret Delano, daughter of Anne Ladd and Jonathan Delano. Sam and Madge had a son, Lansford Whiting, who was Laura Ingalls Wilder's grandfather. The Delano's roots trace all the way back to the Mayflower.
Kyonko moment.
With President Calvin Coolidge, so it's not that special, Mr. President.
Peanuts are neither a pea nor a nut.
Though Laura Ingalls Wilder drew from her own life for many of her novels, she did take some liberties with certain aspects. For example, late in The Little House,
check the clips. I'm afraid to.
Wilder's older sister Mary contracts scarlet fever and goes blind. Laura's real-life sister, also named Mary, was also blind. But it was not from coming down with a bad case of scarlet fever, a nasty disease that could cause a temporary loss of sight. Mary's case of blindness was unfortunately permanent. Using contextual clues from Laura's autobiography, as well as her Little House books, researchers concluded her older sister probably developed viral meningoencephalitis. Symptoms mentioned in Laura's books include facial paralysis, excruciating headaches, and spinal sickness, textbook symptoms of the disease. Laura probably changed the diagnosis to scarlet fever, both because it was a more common illness at the time for audiences to understand, and a little bit because it's hard as hell to say and spell meningoencephalitis.
Meningoencephalitis.
Laura Ingalls Wilder began her esteemed writing career from humble beginnings.
Wait, that's a Remington typewriter. I didn't know they made typewriters. I thought they just made guns.
Writing career from humble beginnings. In 1911, she picked up her pen and scored her first writing job as a columnist for the Missouri Ruralist.
It's funny when you discover stuff like that, like stuff old companies used to make that you'd never think of. Like Nintendo used to make Harafuda cards and or Terrafuda? Harafuda?
Towards a feminist voice before being a feminist was extremely cool. Her articles argued for pro-feminist positions wildly ahead of their time, like advocating for equal partnerships in marriage and what women should do with their newly regarded right to vote. She was a writer for the Ruralist until 1924, but parts of her columns formed the foundation of her Little House series. So needless to say, this job formed her voice as a writer. Laura was the byproduct of a large family, the second oldest of 5 children. Her oldest sister, Mary, and younger sisters, Carrie and Grace, and one younger brother, Charles.
Mary, Carrie, and Grace. That sounds like a singing triplet.
Sometime when the family was making the move to Iowa.
Oldest movie I have seen this year was Throne of Blood, 1957. I'm trying to think, what's the oldest movie I've seen? I mean, I've seen, like, the oldest movies, like, things that are, like, some early cinema when I was doing, school, and we talked about the history of cinema, so, I've seen those. I think the more important thing is what's the oldest movie you watched that you enjoyed, and for me, probably the oldest movie I've seen that I enjoyed was, Chien Andalou. Mainly in the Midwest and West. Oh, there's a really good silent movie we could watch, actually. Let me find it here. Today we call that Animal Crossing. Das Hoxen or something? Hoxen. Yeah, so we can watch this entire thing. And so this is from 1922, and this is considered like the first ever horror movie. And it's public domain, so we can watch it, and we shouldn't get in any trouble or copyright stuff. So, yeah, like that's a big thing I try and find are some of these like public domain movies because they're easy to stream. Just trying to get this to a good position here. Here's the top, so that's the top here. There we go. Oh yeah, we could watch Metropolis as well. Let me know if it gets too spooky for you guys, okay? Oh, that's alright. You can watch it later, or whenever. Hi, Kurisu Sune. Thank you. I'm glad you're back. So we're watching this, we got talking about, like, old movies, and this is a movie from 1922. It's a Swedish movie from what's considered, like, kind of one of the great eras of Swedish filmmaking. And it's sort of considered the first ever horror movie ever made, because it talks about witches. The stars like lamps hung from the sky on ropes. According to the beliefs of other ancient civilizations, the sky was vaulted and the earth shaped into terraces. The evil spirits of ancient times became devils in medieval folklore, sneaking around and tempting children. Oh, we're getting to the spoopy devils. Spoopy devils! Ah! Ah! The devils lived in the depths of the earth, which in the late Middle Ages was thought to be a stationary sphere at the center of the universe. Surrounding the earth and its waters, the medieval man first imagined a layer of air. Okay, I'm holding your hand, Andy. No homo. Then a layer of fire. And outside the fire were the planets, moving celestial bodies. I'm trying to remember, is this... So this is based on Christensen's study of the Malleus Maleficarum. So if you guys don't know, there was a book written called the Malleus Maleficarum, and it is probably one of the most evil books ever written. Not because it talks about witch hunting, but because it's the inspiration, in my mind, for a lot of textbooks on how to write a conspiracy theory and get people to go along with bogus science to persecute people to the degree that you can kill them based on these false accusations. It's like one of the first great examples of a book we know was totally, entirely created by human beings that led directly to atrocities committed by us in the name of this book, which had no basis in science or logic or anything, but we upheld anyways. So it's the Malleus Maleficarum translates to the witch hammer. So what they mean to imply is finding witches and hammering them out of society to create, a more pure society, in the same way you hammer out impurities from metal. So you can buy a physical copy of it, but it's pretty easy to find a digital version to read as well. It's mostly bunkum, like it's all made up bullshit that has no basis in anything unless you're like super paranoid religious type of person. But this is actually this movie we're watching right here is basically what was in the book. So this is a guy relaying what it talked about in the book. So first you have this wonderful terror story. Oh, hi, Sandy Wijaya. So we're watching an old 1922 movie called Haxan. It's a Swedish movie, and it's considered by a lot of people to be the first ever horror movie ever made. And it's a movie about a medieval book called the Malleus Maleficarum, which was kind of the instruction manual on how to hunt witches and use them and identify them and stuff. So it's basically a documentary about one of the earliest sort of propaganda books that people used to say, oh man, this bitch must be a witch. We gotta burn her. And it's led to, like, you know, in modern slang we use terms like witch hunts derogatively to remind us of these kind of things where we take this not at all fact to be really true. I think this movie was also one of the earliest uses of stop motion animation in a movie. Yes, exactly. Hexen is the Germanic word for witch. The word hex is derived from that. Or I might have it backwards. It might be, never mind. Milking an axe handle. Milking an axe handle. Oh my god, these medieval illustrations are the best. Sneak into a barn and bewitch a cow. The soundtrack was added later. Originally, this was a silent film, so it might have been actually creepier because it would have sounded like this. And then they might have just had like something else playing music or something. But yeah, this came out during the time of silent films, so it was up to theaters to kind of decide what music to put in. But the choice they made for this is a good choice. It does create a creepy atmosphere, though. You can imagine, like, this came out in 1922, so this was, let's see, 1918, 19, 20, 20. So that's only 4 years, no, sorry, 4 years after the end of World War I, right? So the world had just seen this kind of horror unparalleled before, and this movie was kind of created in the wake of a lot of people realizing that there's a lot of evil to humanity that we've kind of overlooked. And we thought we were so advanced and sophisticated and enlightened, spreading European knowledge to the rest of the world. But meanwhile, World War I happens, and we see the butchery that happens at the hands of, you know, these supposedly great beacons of civilization. And suddenly everyone's disillusioned with this idea that they were told that, again, we're coming back to that society argument. We live in a society. But that is sort of the basis for, like, World War I created a lot of the modern critique of societal structures and I mean, it completely changed how we saw armies. It destroyed the idea that you could be in charge of an army based on status and position alone, because several battles led to disastrous results when they were headed by guys who were what they called aristocratic generals or career generals. So guys who they were just in the army because that's what every rich aristocratic guy did for prestige. They didn't actually have any passion or understanding of military tactics. They just liked to be in that position. All witches had to show the devil their respect by kissing his behind. Satan's like, kiss my ass. Yes, master. Okay, so that's going to be the new standard for me as well. To show devotion to me, you have to kiss my floofy tail. You know what would make a great soundtrack for this movie if you played it? If it, it would... Oh no, I think it might not get copyright struck because they're not too aggressive about video game music. So you could put, like, the Diablo 2 soundtrack to this. Let me check real quick. I wonder if the Diablo 2 soundtrack is copyright protected or not. It might be open public source. So if it isn't copyright, would that, you guys want to do that? We'll put the Diablo 2 soundtrack on while we watch this. I just gotta see, because Blizzard can be kind of aggressive with their music, so... Oh, so it looks like the Diablo 1 soundtrack might be okay. I'm not sure about the Diablo 2 soundtrack. Num 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 num. People, yummy. Not gonna lie, these witches have some pretty good house decorating style. It's like Martha Stewart, but, you know, gothic. Gothic Martha Stewart, there we go. Well, let me check here real quick. Because it'll say in the description if it's copyright or not, I think. So yeah, we'll see what happens. This is great. I love this already. Freaked out by this back in the 20s. Like, no one had ever seen, like, demons filmed like this. This is where we get to the good part. This is the, like, messed up imagery stuff. Trying to remember it now. Uh-oh, does this movie have nudity? Are we gonna see some naked titties? I hope not, because that could be trouble. Hey, you girls want to party? Come on, Bobby, let's go party. Oh, yeah. Andy McGuffin. Too bad it was fucking boring, except the beginning. That was nightmare fuel. So is Begotten a recent movie, or is that an older movie? Satan churning butter. Oh my gosh, I love that. Wait, so this movie is basically saying if you get stinking drunk every night, you're gonna get to go party with the devil in his cool sky castle. Is this supposed to be bad? I don't know. Andy MacGuffin, no, it's 1989, but it wants to be something from 1827. Do you mean 1927? Every time that devil shows up, I just crack up. It's so good. Just, like, his tongue is just like... Oh, nice animation. That's some really clever use of reverse animation. Or reverse, film. That was really well done. Like, now we can tell what it is, but back then this probably blew people's minds. They're like, what? How did they get that effect? Oh my god. Oh, I just didn't know. I don't know what you mean by saying it wants to be something from 1827, because they didn't have film back in 1827. They didn't even have cameras, I think, back then. Or, no, yeah, they didn't even have cameras yet. Andy MacGuffin, it wants to look old. I can show an image if you want. Yeah, send it in the Discord if you want. But I think I know what you mean. Like, it's a common thing. Like that movie that just came out, The Lighthouse, they did that. But their attention to detail, trying to make it look old, was just leagues above what most people, when they try and make something look old, they try and do it in digital. And you can achieve an effect that way, but that's not the proper way to get a really good, realistic looking older effect. What you actually have to do is replicate, you know, the analog techniques of that time. So you need to have certain lighting effects, certain things that, you know, were the only things they had back then to achieve that effect. because we've developed so many workarounds in modern time to make film look so good, you have to actually work a bit to intentionally retard your film, and like limit it in a way. Yuck. I love how normal a lot of these people look in this movie. Like, this is before the age of Hollywood and making everyone in movies look gorgeous, so these people look like real normal people of the time. They don't like have this crazy makeup and gorgeous lighting, and they look so dirty and homely. I love it. And the framing in a lot of these shots is great, too. Like, they really set these up like paintings. It's kind of amazing how well made this is for 1922. Like, 2 more years, and this would be a 100-year-old movie. This is a 98-year-old movie. Isn't it awesome, like, because of the internet now, we can sit here, you know, in a time where there's like a pandemic and other stuff going on, and we can just watch a 98-year-old movie and appreciate it with a totally new perspective from these people who, you know, never imagined we'd probably see this movie in this context, being hosted by an anime fox boy on a website with video gaming while I hold a bag of Doritos, and there's an image above it that says homo milk. Wonder if we should change that. That might be too much for some viewers. Let's see if we can find something less spicy. I kind of want to watch something else. Do you guys mind if I change it to something else? Yeah, but maybe we'll go back to watch that. Let's see. What's something fun to watch? I know. I should go to my... You guys can see what my tastes are like. Oh yeah, Djibouti dubs, yeah. I guess I could do karaoke too.
Yeah. I say we eat him.
Look, Simba. Everything is wholesome.
Awesome!
One day, Simba, the antelope will eat our bodies.
Wow. But I thought we eat the antelope.
No, son. Nobody messes with the antelope.
What about Zazu? Can we eat?
Yes, Simba.
What's going on?
Nothing.
Try not to make a sound.
What are you telling him, Mufasa?
That's very good. When we die, our bodies become very good.
What?
Let me explain. Our bodies die when we die, and the antelope eat our bodies when we die, and so we are all very good.
Good morning, sire.
Good morning, Zazu.
It's Mr. Banana Beak to you, fuzzy.
As king, you must never respect the creatures. My son is a hairball.
I see.
Scar! Help me! Brother! Brother, help me! What am I going to do with it? Brother!
You make a very handsome
Brother!
All right, it
No,
worked.
I
We
can't.
lost him. I am a genius.
No.
Yeah, I am a genius.
Say that again.
I am a genius.
Knowledge. It's very good.
loser.
What's going on here?
We could get in big trouble. I know.
Simba, take Nala home. I've got to kill my son.
Bye-bye. Come, Nala. Simba.
You're gonna die.
Simba!
Simba!
Don't ever do that again.
Simba, I'm very brave.
But you're not.
Simba!
I don't want to hear the word.
I was just trying to be brave. Shut up.
Only Nala is brave.
We're pals, right?
Wrong.
Let me tell you something that my father told me. Don't make me destroy you.
I walk on the wild side. I laugh in the face of danger.
Mr. Banana Beak to you, fuzzy. Mr. Banana.
Mufasa, quick. Quick. Simba stampede.
Did I miss? What do we do? What do I do?
Oh my god! Oh, I can't breathe.
Brother! That's it! Brother! Don't turn your back on me. Look, Simba. I killed Scar.
You've been alive all this time. Why didn't you come back to Pride Rock?
I just needed to pay.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and it's great.
What?
Look, sometimes I'm paid, and there's nothing you can do about it.
What's happened to you?
Nothing that concerns you spacemen.
What?
Listen, isn't this a great place?
No.
Isn't this a great place?
No.
Isn't this a great
Brother!
No.
Can't you say anything else but no?
No.
You know, you're starting to sound like Timon.
Good. At least one of us does.
You don't even know Timon.
No.
Forget it.
Fine.
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 You are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor.
What was that? The weather. Very peculiar.
Ow. That hurts.
Good.
Ow. What was that for?
It doesn't matter. It's in the past.
Ow. You think you can just show up and tell... Ow. I'm gonna take your stick.
No. The stick.
Ow.
Hey! Where are you going?
Creepy little monkey. Will you stop following me?
The question is... Shh, come here. Die.
He kills him with the stick.
Simba. Simba.
Oh yeah, you like... Oh good. Another cast fan. Oh my god, the way he draws everything is just the best.
Simba.
Oh my god, that last frame. Oh, that's great. That's great. That's great. That's great. Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. Do you guys know Ricky Berwick? So he's this like he's this disabled comedian from I think Toronto. And he just has this amazing sense of humor and ability to use his body for some just incredible, like, really great humor. Because it's more than, like, I've heard people say, oh, he just uses his body to his advantage, he just does the same old cripple joke again and again. It's like, no, he's actually really smart in, like, being funny despite himself. It's not like he's funny because he's disabled. It's like, he's funny, and then the fact that he's disabled is like...
Look at my horse is amazing.
I want the world. I want the whole world.
I'm a total freaking rock star from Mars. Winning. Are you bipolar? I'm bi. Winning. Win there, win there, win, everywhere, winner.
Veggie Tales.
And I come to step on your chickens and soil your quilts.
Soil your quilts.
How long have you been there?
About 2 days now.
Denied!
You can't deny me until I start talking and then you—
Denied!
Oh my god, Fubuki is the best. Oh, it's copyrighted. Darn. Moving at the speed of sound, quickest head jog around. Got ourselves a situation, stuck in a new location. Hi, Cloner Masita. How are you doing today? Egg. 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 Bruh. Bruh. That doesn't sound right. Their noses are so funky how they can, like, close up and open. Okay, gotta go. See ya. Not me, the seal, I mean. Rage quit. Sorry, that was confusing. It made it sound like I'm leaving. I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. Okay, just tell me what you want and how long I got to stream it for, mister. I don't want any trouble.
Come here. Come here. Come on. Come here. Hey. Come here. Everybody's saying it.
It's like... Aww. Look at that. He's having a good time. I'm Sandcastle. Yes. Yahoo! No! Cobra! Now, I don't know what this is going to copyright claim. Is this going to copyright claim Gangnam Style, or is this going to copyright claim, Cut? Yeah, it's like the opening of Death Note or something. Korea, not a norm. Whoa, Schrodinger. When the... Oh, I love Jahi-sama.
Listen, baby girl, I ain't got a motorboat, but I can float your boat. So listen, baby girl, once you get a dose of dough, you gon' want some more. So listen, baby.
Andy McGuffin, this is a personal message from me to Kyonkochan.
Hey, nice cock, bro. Thick, but not too flaccid. Perfect length, a nice 80-degree angle.
Well, sorry, let me take a drink of water. Well, that's just fine. I'm glad you appreciate my cock. Let me know if you want me to duke it for you sometime. 'Cause I'm all out of bubblegum, and I've come here to chew ass. Wait, that's not right. Oh well, that's what we're rolling with now. I've got balls of steel. I don't know how my Duke Nukem impression sounds.
I rated a 8.5 out of 10. Good job, King.
Nice opinion. Just one tiny problem with it. Inspecting your post, it looks like your opinion is different from mine. Let me tell you something. I am the baseline for opinions. Any opinion I hold is objectively correct, and as a result, any other opinions are wrong. Guess what? You happen to hold a wrong one. I hope you know that your opinion is now illegal. I have contacted the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the Navy SEALs, Secret Service, and your mom. You'll be sorry you ever shared your opinions. By the time you're reading this, you'll be done for. Nature will punish you. Humanity will punish you. Supernatural beings will punish you. Space will punish you. We decided just to make sure we'll nuke your house from within, so there's no chance you can run away. Everyone will know you will die. It's a small price to pay to remove your wrong opinion from
You know,
this
I
world.
used to think that, but Twitter's actually
The horror genre is such a natural fit for video
I
games,
see a
to the
lot
point where it's
more
kinda ridiculous.
condemnation
Among
for
other
things that are
reasons, people
genuinely
love
bad
horror
on
because of the
Twitter
excitement
than people
and
make it out
adrenaline
to
that
be.
you feel from getting scared. If you hear something in a horror movie or see something in
Like,
the
you'll
background,
always find
yeah,
these
it's scary
fringe
as
people
fuck
that go
if
after
done right,
everything, but
you
it's
still
sort of
just get to
obvious
sit there
that
and
they're
watch
just
it
like looking
unfold,
for a fight
crossing your fingers,
versus
hoping
like,
that the protagonist
you know,
doesn't.
a lot of people just kind of, you know, don't like
But in a video game,
see
if
bad
you
stuff.
see a guy with a chainsaw and a bag on his head running towards you, yeah, you can set down your sweaty cunt and just watch it happen. But if the game has done a good job at fully immersing you into the experience, you'll more likely let a couple squeeze rip and say, oh no, I'm scared, and now I have to fight this freaky fuck. Oh, bother, what a day.
Is that a
it
good thing that I like
have it.
Nakey
And
Jakey,
it's
or is that a bad
completely
thing I
different
like
type of
Nakey
terror.
Jakey?
This is the type of
I
shit
just
that
like this guy
interests me,
rambling while he
and this is
sits
the
on
type
a
of shit
yoga
that I wanna
ball.
talk about today, right now, online. Also, notice how I titled the video Horror in Video Games and not Horror Video Games, because there's a lot of good examples of video games that probably aren't in the genre that still use horror effectively.
I mean, I'm not going to change my opinion if people,
gamer moments that gamers
you know, want to
describe
unsubscribe from me or whatever because I like
many
Nakey Jakey. I'm just curious, like, oh, is there a consensus that he did something wrong, or is he a douchebag I don't know something about, I guess? I don't know.
Here's the door.
You know, it's like on the internet, anytime someone's like, oh, you like that person. Huh, I didn't know you like that person. It's like, what do you mean?
Where a lot of games are about constantly leveling up and making you feel more and more powerful, Amnesia
That's Simba,
is all
though.
about doing the exact opposite.
That's
it can
Simba.
truly make you feel like a scared idiot with no skills except hide and seek by Imogen Heap that does wonders in the department of making gamers make white underwear turn yellow. Like from P. It's the same thing with viral
Underscares.
idiots like Slender.
Oh my
The game
god.
was made
Did
quickly
you
and
guys ever
looks
hear
like
about Underscares? I forget what game was it promoting. Outlast 2. So for Outlast 2, they marketed these like adult diapers. Oh, that's not it. Where's the video?
Hello, I'm Alison Wilkes, Head of Market Research at Red Barrels, creators of the upcoming survival horror game Outlast 2. The launch of our demo has created its fair share of reactions, and we've witnessed, by analyzing social media data, a very disturbing trend. Ali K wrote, yeah, I just finished the demo, need to change my pants. Thanks, Red Barrels. Millen Mitchell wrote, owned the first, played it for 15 minutes, shit myself, and never went back on. Good game. Sal Zoltan wrote, hide your kids, hide your wife, get your diapers, get your headphones, it's coming. And it goes
like,
on
there's a weird angle of this where it feels like they're really pushing diapers.
Are confronted with a severe threat to their survival. The adrenal medulla produces a hormonal cascade that results in high blood pressure, elevated heartbeat, and in cases of extreme fear, sudden voiding of the bowels.
So we found a way to release Outlaws 2 without you worrying about the release of number 2. Introducing our Kickstarter project, Underscare's Outlaws 2 diapers. Oh yeah, they're real. We put Underscares through rigorous beta testing. Until we reach the pinnacle of diaper technology. So now you can play in a state of abject terror and total comfort. And there's even a limited edition with a wearable nightlight. This is a real product. View the Underscares Kickstarter page to fund the project.
It's such a weird video game concept, and it's like...
And a sincere thank you from the bottom of our bottoms to those
like, to me, I was slightly bothered by it, because it's like...
I'm totally cool.
You're making fun of something that for some people is like a serious problem. Like... Some people suffer from major bowel incontinence because of, like, doctors fucking stuff up or being in car accidents. And, you know, I'm not saying you can't laugh at people in diapers. People in diapers is funny. Like, that's just an inherently funny thing. But the way they're approaching it is almost like they're trying to be sincere about making a proper diaper. And that's where it gets weird, is it's like, this is a real product. We're actually making diapers. We want you to shit your pants. And I'm like... It's just such a weird promo. I'm surprised that wasn't in the cursed commercials thing.
Dog shit. When Slenderman looks like a fucking thumb person from Spy Kids, which would actually be scarier. Oh, but the gameplay mechanics of not being able to look at him for very long and knowing that he's always following, that's the part that's scary. The gameplay. You can't hotkey any of the controls in Five Nights at Freddy's. You can only use the mouse to do everything, which means it's way more intense because you're constantly whipping that thing around trying to handle a bunch of shit at once. Like Amnesia, a game called Eternal Darkness on the GameCube has a sanity meter, which means the main character can just go fucking batshit sometimes. And sometimes the game demonstrates that insanity by swapping the controls to different buttons on the GameCube con. And also the game breaks the fuck out of the fourth wall, which is a great segue to the next part of the video. Good job writing the video, Jacob. Thanks, asshole. Few things are as creepy as the sensation of feeling watched. So when the game that you're playing acknowledges the fact that you're interacting with it and kind of has the illusion of being self-aware and sort of reaches out of the TV to wave hello, that shit can be unsettling as f***. As I mentioned a second ago, Eternal Darkness does just this. It will do shit like pretending to turn the volume.
I have an idea for a horror game, but it's kind of controversial. I had an idea for a horror game where you play as a kid in a like one of those gay conversion therapy camps, and you have to escape. And a lot of the horror isn't like
having cheeky little things
like body horror or monsters or stuff. It's just like hearing people say offhanded statements that dehumanize people in a way that makes you really uncomfortable.
Simulation or whatever you want to call it begins to unravel, and the Colonel, or whatever you want to call him, begins to say a series of extremely unsettling things, not only to Raiden, but directly to the player as well.
Raiden, turn the game console off right now.
What did you say?
The mission is a failure. Cut the power right now.
What's wrong with you?
Don't worry, it's a game. It's a game just like usual.
You'll ruin your eyes playing so close to the TV.
What are you talking about?
Honestly, though, you have played the game for a long time. Don't you have anything else to do with your time? This is why we chose you. You accepted the fiction we've provided, obeyed our orders.
Man, the meta levels they get to in Metal Gear Solid 2 is... I don't know if anyone's ever topped it, to be honest.
Well worth it considering the results.
It's kind of crazy how Kojima was able to, like...
enough talk.
But my personal favorite
yes.
fourth wall break comes from one of the Scarecrow encounters.
Yeah, Metal Gear Solid 2 predicted the future to, like, a frightening degree, like...
then this happens.
Man, people talk about 1984. No, Metal Gear Solid 2. Metal Gear Solid 2, man, that was the thing that laid down a lot of the lines for stuff.
I've waited a long time for this dance. Let's start the party with a bang.
Use the middle stick to dodge the Joker's gun.
And this is after Scarecrow had already appeared and fucked with the game a couple times, which was surprising on its own.
Yeah, those Scarecrow moments were great.
These segues are pretty good. Up until a certain point in Arkham Asylum, you're just running around doing action-adventure Batman type shit, and then things start to get a little bit willy crazy. Wait a second, I don't remember these walls falling apart. Wait, when did these bugs move in? Wait, why am I talking to my dead parents in the morgue? Oh, Scarecrow! Oh, ding, 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 ding. It's Scarecrow.
Well, the big thing about horror is it has to reflect, like, kind of what the person making it is scared of in a way.
Right?
And the thing that scares me more than anything is the idea of, like, social isolation, the idea of, like, or, like, sort of a, like a gaslighting sort of thing where you're slowly isolated from people and go crazy because you have, like, no social structure that can help you get out of it. So it's like, it's a fear that I sort of relate to as, like, you know, being a kid and growing up with not awesome parents in some cases. So, you know, you feel trapped and helpless and in a way that's not, you know, ooh, a monster's gonna get me. It's like a very existential horror that, and as a kid, like, you almost can't explain it.
In a regular horror game, this wouldn't be especially scary or memorable, but like Batman, it's the defying of expectations that completely rips out the rug from under you. Bloodborne. That was a moment of silence for everything that Bloodborne does right.
Oh, I still have to play Bloodborne. I really want to play it sometime.
Now, I know that we all know how I generally feel about Red Dead 2. But Red Dead 2 is actually really good at using horror in some of the side quests and encounters. Most of you who've played the game are probably familiar with the pig farm encounter. If you're not, I'll educate you. Basically, two incestual weirdos invite you into their house to then roofie you and then rob you. And then you wake up in a pit after they've knocked you out, and you can go back to the house and get your revenge and get your money back and do a kickflip. But if you're a curious little cat, before you sit down at the table to then, you know, get knocked out and robbed, you can kind of snoop around the house and inspect shit, basically piecing together that these two fuckwads definitely killed their mom. But one of the most unsettling and chilling things that I've ever seen in a game is if when you wake up in the pit outside and then you go get your revenge, if you don't kill the lady and instead hogtie her and pick her up and take her over to the pit that they put you in, she says this.
No! What are you doing? No! Please, no! Please, I'm sorry. Not here. Mama! I'm sorry, Mama. I'm sorry.
The game has unique dialogue just for this insanely specific situation that most gamers, myself included, wouldn't have even thought to do, which is so cool and makes me wish that other parts of the game were also cool, because then I would make a calm. Silent Hill 4 lets you look through a little peephole when you're back at your apartment, and usually you just see this girl walking around with her stuffed bunny in the background. That's fine, whatever, no harm, no foul. See you later, Brogan. But then if you choose to keep peeping through the peephole like a fucking creep, eventually this happens. Oh, anyways, moving on. Oh man, isn't this a fun and light-hearted video? BioShock has a ton of this stuff too. Lots of environmental storytelling and audio tapes that you can listen to give context to whatever. I'm just using BioShock as a segue into the next section about jump scares, which I realize is not my best work when it comes to these segues. Also, did you guys know that the inventor of the Segway died from driving a Segway off a cliff? I'm not making this shit up. One time when I was in LA, I think it was either Eddie or Chris Raygun or someone was telling us about it. Now, I guess it's true that the inventor of the Segway was trying to like demonstrate how good he could stop, like how quickly he could stop. And he just fucking drove the Segway off a cliff. Oh, fuck. Unlike games like Outlast that eventually just kind of make you numb to jump scares because they're just so constant, BioShock does the opposite. So when a jump scare does come, it comes hard. While exploring a creepy dentist's office, after looting some valuable items off a desk in the corner, the room starts to fill with fog. Oh fuck, Mom, it's the dentist man and he wants to give me a filling. Oh no. Undertale is not a horror game, but sometimes it do be like that though. If you do a run of the game where you decide to just murder everyone, aka a genocide run as it's known by the fan base, the game ends with a specific character doing this. Yeah, he kills you, and after shaking the fuck out of the game window, it shuts itself off. Ooh, fun, again. The first Resident Evil has a classic jump scare that anyone who's played the game...
This brutal killing took place while the family was gathered at home on a Sunday afternoon.
Don't touch that dial now, we're just getting started.
Super Mario 64 has a really dumbass jump scare where a piano randomly tries to eat you. We should probably talk about what just happened, huh? Yeah, PT gets its own section of the video because it is easily, like without a doubt in my mind, the most terrifying piece of media I have ever experienced. Movie, TV show, book, song, podcast, whatever. Nothing even comes close to PT. This shit is actually cursed. Like right now, I'm in my studio. There's obviously no footage playing behind me, but even just
sorry, I just stepped away for a second. I'm just making a coffee.
Lisa behind me, dude. I like actually goosebumping. This shit is just the ultimate cocktail of interactive terror. The game fucks with your head by repeating the same hallway.
What a testament to like Hideo Kojima's genius that he could take a concept that almost anyone else would fuck up and make a repetitive thing of. Like, you literally walk down the same hallway again and again and again, and Kojima turned that into something that works.
Sorry, Jacob.
Yeah, this fucking sucks.
Yeah, I bet it sucks. It's programmed into the game that at least for part of it, she's literally always following you and can project real-time shadows of herself in front of you among other bullshit. The puzzles that you had to solve in order to beat the game are so obtuse that it basically turned everyone who played the game into an online conspiracy theorist that had to work together to reach insane realizations, like that at one point in the game you have to say a name out loud in real life into your PlayStation microphone. Like, What the fuck? All of these things created a game that not only felt like it was breaking the fourth wall and reaching out of the TV at you, but it fucking was the fourth wall. Nobody knew what this thing was. It was like the tape from The Ring, and anyone that came in contact with it was just haunted by it, even when the PS4 was turned off. Yeah, try turning PT into a horror book or movie or TV show or podcast. You can't, because it is a horror game 100% through and through. Before I end this video, I just wanted to take a second and let you guys know how much I super appreciate how receptive you've been to all of the different, types of content that I've been working on this year. Whether it's videos about video games, which is obviously what I started doing on this channel, or videos about non-video gaming shit, which I'm just as interested in making, if sometimes more interested, or my music or whatever. I'm just really grateful that you guys have stuck around. 2019 has been a very transitional time for me that has just often felt really weird or just difficult in ways that I wasn't used to. But yeah, I just wanted to say, getting emotional, that I'm just really thankful that you've stuck around through my creative processes and shit. I've been seeing a therapist, and I feel like she's made me she's really great, but has made me way more like open with my emotions, but also means that it's like way easier to quickly like make me cry and shit. But I'm just very grateful that all of you have not only
it's
been very
astounding
patient
how
with
much
my
Konami
processes,
decided
but
to
have just
throw
been
away
incredibly supportive,
by
whether it's on
running
Instagram
afoul
or
of Kojima,
Twitter or email or Patreon or whatever. I'm not gonna lie, at this point it's pretty hard to read and especially reply to everything I see on all these different apps or
I think I might
email or
skip
whatever,
it here.
but I do see a lot.
Yeah. Speaking of haunted music, cursed music.
I could stay awake just to hear you breathing. Watch you smile while you are sleeping, while you're far away and dreaming. I could spend my life in this sweet surrender. I could stay lost in this moment forever. Every moment spent with you is a moment I treasure. Don't wanna close my eyes, I don't wanna fall asleep, 'cause I miss you, baby, and I don't wanna miss a thing. 'Cause even when I dream of you, the sweetest dream will never do. I still miss you, baby, and I don't wanna miss a thing.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
It's such a unique country when you think about the history and their contributions to the martial arts in particular. Just, I mean, the warrior ethic of the samurai, like that book Miyamoto Musashi's The Book of Five Rings. That's a great book for your life. Just to think about excellence in your life and pursuit in your life and how all things balance out all other aspects of your life. Like his idea of being a great samurai, you had to also be great at calligraphy. You had to be a great artist. You had to be able to write poetry. You had to be a balanced human being in order to fight correctly. You know, this fucking guy was like 60-0 in one-on-one sword fights.
Mm-hmm. And became a pacifist in his later life.
And that
Yamato Musashi.
Fuck, man, it's an amazing book, man.
We got a Musashi quote at the end of the anime film.
That's him.
Yeah.
That's him on my arm. Yeah, just the whole the culture.
I love
the
Sturgill Simpson. He's this
martial arts, like what they've been.
He's
able to do
basically a
with
weeb country musician.
It's an interesting place. Even their automobiles, you know. I mean, they make like bulletproof cars that last forever. Like they were the first people to figure it out. Just make cars that don't break
and go really fast.
Yeah.
They probably have made a few about it.
It's a fascinating culture. So what connection did they have to the anime thing? Who was making all that animation for you?
Well, I had the idea for the record first, and we played Fuji Rock in 2017. I have a very good friend, a Japanese friend who grew up in Kentucky on an exchange program with my wife, and he later moved back.
Because I think that he got the same studio that made
his name Shusuke and he
Beastars to
did
do
the
it.
radio thing for one. Then he got into voice narration.
What is it, Studio Orange or something?
He's just a good dude, and we were talking. I went over for a couple weeks before we played Fuji Rock to hang out with him and my buddies.
If you're not busy, Andy, look up who made
Beastars. The record was recorded the month before, and I was like, man, it'd be really cool to do some animated videos for this album, if it's like 1 or 2. And we were sitting around his place watching a lot of old animation and anime films, and the textures and the color and everything is just stuff you don't really see anymore. And I was just thinking about like some of my favorite cartoons from that, especially the older stuff, the 70s and 80s that came from that world. So we decided to start taking meetings with producers just to get an idea of like, what would this cost? How long will it take? Is it even possible? Would they do it? And it was kind of trial and error for a while. We finally had a meeting with a guy named Hiroki, who was very understated in the meeting, sold himself short, you know, just like a mid-50s guy in a tracksuit. But we come to find out a week later, he's the fucking man, and like all his buddies are the man too. And those guys are also used to working under
I was
not
right.
necessarily restrictions, but if they take a project on, it's from a big studio. The story's already dictated.
It's actually Studio Orange?
The parameters are dictated. Like basically they have to stay within someone else's lane with their vision. And so one of the first, he asked me this, what kind of animation I was interested in. So I named off some of the references of the things that I loved and was looking to sort of get in terms of aesthetic and texture. And he just went straight to the guys that made those things because they were drinking buddies with all of them. And Junpei Mizusaki especially was
oh no, maybe it was a different studio.
Shun translated all the lyrics for them because I wanted them to know, one, what the record was about, and so they could gauge interest. And he just sort of said at dinner one night, he's like, "You're talking about the same things that I do."
Did they do Batman Ninja?
He's like, "You know, I feel like this could be me talking. We deal with the same things in terms of dealing with business and commerce versus art." So he just sort of reacted passionately to the music, and he just said, "I want to do the whole record." He's like, "This is kind of a dream project for me."
Oh, I think it's a production unit called Kamikaze Doga.
And then it was like, "Well, how are you going to do the whole record in a year? Because we've already been sitting on this thing for a year and a half now." And they assembled 4 other directors who were running teams or project teams at the same time simultaneously and breaking the songs up into chapters. So even though there's somewhat of a linear narrative told out of chronological order, and then 2 little side vignettes, which are sort of same universe, different world, just to give a different perspective on some of those songs. Because
okay, yeah, so it's the studio Kamikaze Doga.
Other teams had 2, and he was overseeing the entire thing, but had them all working simultaneously on it so we could finish on time. So I went over 6 times in the last year, and I realized about the second trip that those visits were very beneficial because those guys don't do half-ass.
Oh, I remember what they did. So they didn't do Beastars. They did these guys.
So every time I would come back,
I'll switch over so we can watch this real quick. These guys. Yeah, good movie on Netflix you should check out if you get a chance.
They knew I was coming. I could tell that was really motivating them to go outside the box, and everybody wanted to be the guy that blew my mind the most. You know what I mean? And they did every fucking time. It's just like some of that stuff. I know how they did it, and I don't know how they did it. You know.
Where can anybody see the whole thing?
Netflix.
Oh, it's all on Netflix.
It's on Netflix right now.
But you put some of it on YouTube.
Well,
Did you put
yeah, I
one
didn't
song?
want to. The label has to have a single because they got their relationship with Spotify and all that shit. So they gotta, which is also frustrating because we make cohesive concept records that are meant to be consumed as a whole.
Right.
And then, like, if I'm not going to radio, why do I need a single? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
just put the fucking record out. Skip the lead up, the whole traditional setup, because we don't fit that model.
Right.
Just by making records, we're antiquated, you know. But they put a single out, so they put one section of the movie up on YouTube, which I think we'll take down now that the whole film's out. But
yeah, for people who they'd be like, "What is going on here?"
yeah,
Yeah.
we basically made a, heavy metal or The Wall, but with Japanese animators.
I love it.
I wouldn't compare it to The Wall, but same idea. It's just a visual. It's a visual age.
It's beautiful too. The animation that they did for it is it's incredible. Was it weird seeing like their vision connected to your music?
No, I mean I wrote the initial story, the main byline screenplay, and then told Junpei, like, we were trying to do an homage of specifically Yojimbo and then a couple other famous samurai films like Takeshi Kitano's
Yojimbo
and a lot of Kurosawa things, like very reoccurring storylines. And we were watching Kurosawa films in the studio, making the record on silent in the control room just to kind of keep our mood right, like to keep everything kind of dark and ominous and no second guessing. But yeah, it's kind of like a futuristic dystopian Yojimbo, which is also a fistful of dollars, where you got one town of people being oppressed by a couple rival factions or gang leaders. And sort of using them for their own in the future.
オークションに出してたっぷりもらおうぜ。
なあ相棒、そのアイテムを持っていくならその前に試着しないか。
試着だな。
え？
Yahoo! Merriweather is very
Here we are
blessed.
again, boys. I've been collecting different video game collector's editions for a long time, which in hindsight kind of makes it hard to move to another country. Guess other things are making that kind of hard also, so... But among my collection, I have a few favorites, and Fallout New Vegas is realistically probably at the top. The game made its debut 2 short years after Fallout 3, and I can't tell you the amount of excitement that I had for it. For me, the game had an immensely different feeling to it than Fallout 3, yet felt the same in a lot of ways. Where Fallout 3 had Washington, D.C., and a lot of ruined city-type areas, New Vegas had the desert, the casinos, the people. My god, the people. Bethesda took that momentum that they had going for them with Fallout 3, and in one of the best decisions they've ever made, pitched the game over to the franchise's original creators, Obsidian, who worked their asses off to get the game out in 18 short months. I played New Vegas to hell and back so hard when it came out that I actually burnt out on it. I know that's probably blasphemy to some people, considering that, one or two of you have been trying to get a video out of me on the game for a while. But it's
I
true,
can relate
I've only
to that.
really touched the game one or two other times beyond that initial surge of playing it. And I'll tell you guys right now, I only played one of the DLCs also. So considering all of that, I had to wonder, was Fallout New Vegas as good as I remember? But first things first, mods. As always, there's either criticism of me using mods because it's not true to the original game, or there's criticism of me not using any mods in a Bethesda game on PC. My stance will always be that I do not critique
Oh,
the
I've
game's
seen this
graphics,
video before, never
so I
mind.
installed some texture mods and left the characters as they are. I'll always be the first to say that the visuals of an older game won't look nearly as good as they used to, so there's no point in evaluating them. I actually remove a lot of them later. Anyways, New Vegas starts with the most powerful opening sequence I've ever seen in a Bethesda game. It's theatrical, it's compelling, but most importantly, it's concise and informational. Games like Fallout 3 and 4 tell you where you are, who the people are in front of you, what you're supposed to do. New Vegas tells you who the major factions are. It introduces the New California Republic, a group which represents democracy and standing for the people, while finding common ground between them. It brings up Caesar's Legion, a totalitarian group of slaves and slavers who seek to dominate and rule over the wasteland through military doctrine. It mentions the New Vegas Strip and the mysterious entity known as Mr. House, who runs the strip and lords over its citizens. And the game tells you what's happened to you and what your role was before you got shot in the head. It takes that moment of expectancy, that moment of, who's gonna swoop in and save my character, and flips it on its head. Or puts a bullet in it, rather.
Truth is, the game was rigged from the start.
This is a fantastic...
I should play Fallout New Vegas sometime. I just gotta get enough people who want to watch interested.
What's up, guys? My name is Jake, and welcome to Abandoned, episode 52. And this is a very special episode. Today, I wanted to talk about something I've been making videos on for a while, a place which inspired me to even start this series. I made an episode on it way back in 2015, but so much has happened since, and there's so much more that I never got a chance to talk about. So
I was
today,
thinking of playing New Vegas,
Walt Disney World's
but I
first
want to make
water
sure
park
people are
and one of
interested.
the most iconic abandoned theme park locations in the world, River Country. This episode is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Go to surfshark.deals/BSF to get 85% off and 3 extra months for free. It all began in 1973 with the worldwide oil crisis. Walt Disney World had just opened 2 years prior, and the resort was facing the issue of low attendance due to this economic depression. So the company began looking into building new, yet smaller attractions outside of the Magic Kingdom. After building Treasure Island out on Bay Lake in 1974, that separate ticket attraction proved to be quite popular. So the company began planning for a water-based attraction unlike any other. Of course, because this was Central Florida, any water park would work, but River Country was really quite unique. Unlike other water parks in the country that were just standard, gray concrete, prefabricated slides, this custom water park was going to be fully themed, having guests enter the loosely fictional world of Tom Sawyer. The site selected was the northern corner of the Fort Wilderness Campground, on land which was previously just horse pastures. Fort Wilderness already had a train running through it, making it perfect for transferring guests to the new water park, and it was going to help boost the appeal of the campground to new visitors. So construction began, and on June 20th, 1976, River Country had opened to the public, with President Ford's daughter taking the first slide. It was one of, if not the world's first, fully themed water park. Immediately, the new attraction was a hit with guests, being one of the most unique water park experiences ever created. The layout of River Country was also unique, as a major portion of the 5-acre park had water fed directly from Bay Lake into it. The water in that main bay area, called the Old Swimming Hole, was made to look like it was just an extension of the lake. but in reality, it was using a confluent water filtering system. To prevent flooding when the natural lake's water level changed, the park's old swimming hole was raised a few inches higher, bordered by a retaining wall next to the Bay Bridge. Water from Bay Lake was pumped into the massive artificial mountain, filtered, then pumped down into the swimming hole via the water slides, constantly ensuring the water wasn't stagnant and always filtered. This created a unique sand-bottom swimming area to which several themed water slides would conclude. Most notably out of the slides was the Whitewater Rapids, which essentially was a fast-paced, lazy river down a 330-foot winding path of sudden drops. There was also structures out in the bay to swing and zip line off of, as well as a kiddie area off to the side. River Country also featured a chlorinated regular pool with a slide only able to exist from the 1970s. To cap off your River Country experience, the park had a secluded nature trail perched above a swamp and a volleyball court placed out in the actual lake. All in all, River Country was the ideal family water park at the time, and quickly grew in popularity. Over the next few years, millions of people had visited the park, mainly with a positive experience filled with cherished memories. But as time went by, the flaws of River Country began to become more apparent, mainly in its size. The park was only around 5 acres large and could hold just 4,700 guests per day. Capacity became a huge problem as popularity grew, since the small River Country Park was the only water park experience in Walt Disney World, and one of very few in the area. As the resort in a whole greatly expanded in the 1980s, that just meant more people were visiting. Millions more. The water park built in the 1970s was just too small to handle the huge influx of guests wanting to visit a Disney water park. So Disney began construction on something to help alleviate this need, a brand new water park called Typhoon Lagoon. This enormous 56-acre park absolutely dwarfed River Country when it opened in 1989.
Typhoon Lagoon is our answer to River Country because River Country
Yeah.
was so full. River Country
Jeepers.
in the 70s was revolutionary for its time. It was the first themed water park around. If you compared it to what Disneyland was in 1955 to other amusement parks.
Yeah, you're the only one watching right now, so it's like, I don't know if I should keep streaming, but if you decide to leave, let me know, because I'll close it down.
And River Country,
Oh,
a
hey,
good
someone
spot
just
if you're
showed up, I
visiting or
think.
staying in Fort Wilderness. By the early 1990s, things got even worse for the park. Disney had opened yet another massive water park called Blizzard Beach in April of 1995. Disney had also banned all people from swimming in their lakes by this time, and despite River Country's water being filtered, this wasn't a good sign for the future. Disney had then raised River Country's admission price, which most guests didn't see as much value since there were bigger and better places to visit. Since the majority of the park's water came from the lake, it wasn't heated, which meant on slightly cooler days, the park would just shut down entirely.
I mean, all my
River Country also hadn't
YouTube
really been
viewers have
updated
probably
at all,
left
and
because
now in
it's
a new
been
world of guest expectations,
sporadic
the
streaming on there
1970s
today,
water park
so...
design wasn't exactly cutting it. By the late 1990s, attendance to the park was obviously down. While River Country had its dedicated fan base for those who loved the hometown and nature-oriented feel of the park compared to the newer facilities, the fact was that River Country likely didn't have much of a bright future. By fall of 2001, the park had shut down as it did every year for the winter season. However, by April of 2002, the Orlando Sentinel posted an article claiming that River Country may not reopen at all. A Disney spokesperson was asked to comment and said that the park may open if, quote, there's enough guest demand. However, 2 months later, another spokesperson updated the Sentinel, saying the park would remain closed at least through 2002. From satellite photos, we can see that the park was kept up during this time, all the way up until around 2003, with the pool still chlorinated. However, as that year came and went, there was no word about what would happen to the park. The entrance still read River Country, yet photos from this time showed the dormant park very slowly showing signs of neglect. Finally, a fence was put up bordering the property, and by 2005, Disney had
this
officially
is
announced that River
abandoned,
Country
so this
was not going to
is...
reopen.
Probably help if I
By
adjust
that
this so
time,
people can
the
see what
park
we're
was
watching.
already in disrepair. Photos taken during this time showed the upstream plunge pool drained with mildew growing on the sides. The amazing rockwork had already begun chipping away, and the old swimming hole was now turning into a swamp, with grass growing out of the beach area, and without filtration, the sitting water turned green with algae growing on top. For a while, the entire park had been cut off by fences to the rest of Fort Wilderness. Though in 2008, because Mickey's Backyard Barbecue was now open, the dining pavilion where that took place was essentially inside the water park. So instead of a fence blocking the entire property,
I guess, yeah, if I
now
resize
Disney
it,
erected a fence
see what it
bordering
says,
the pool area, allowing guests to freely walk inside what was formerly the paths and buildings to River Country. Snack stands were still standing, as well as signs obviously pointing out that the land was something else. Over the next few years, Disney didn't make any public statements on the now abandoned water park. A few buildings were demolished and the park's water tower was relocated to the pool in Fort Wilderness. River Country, however, continued to rot away in the Florida sun. The once crowded watering hole, inspired by nature, was now being taken over by nature. And because of its abrupt decision to close, much of the park was left stuck in time. Music was even still playing as if River Country had been wrapping up for the day. Incredibly, even the lights remained on inside the park, illuminating as dusk fell. As far back as 1994, plans called for redevelopment of River Country. River Country was more or less the same as it was when it first opened. However, when Disney contracted the Urban Design Group to build a wilderness-themed lodge on Bay Lake, their master plan also included Fort Wilderness. The plan was to build a moderate resort on the shores of Fort Wilderness directly beside River Country. And this is where things get interesting. The hotel was named Disney's Buffalo Junction, but it also went by Disney's Settlement Junction. This resort was made to resemble an old Western-style town. Comprised of 600 rooms, guests would check in at Wilderness Lodge, then take a train to the junction. Now, this resort was to be placed right on top of Pioneer Hall, meaning it would be directly adjacent to the existing River Country Park. But in the site plans, in the green space next to the bathroom area overlapping the barbecue pavilion, sits something called Country Fair. This almost appears to be an expansion to River Country. While it's hard to make out what exactly these objects are in the general master plan schematics, it could be assumed that they would be small flat rides, a green space park, or even modern water slides. It appears this site would in some way connect to River Country and even leave room for future expansion. There's even evidence to suggest that in this new hotel plan, River Country was going to be rebranded with a new name to be part of Buffalo Junction. In the Urban Design Group's book, this is a line when describing the hotel. Quote, "A standalone dance hall and Longhorn Steak Restaurant animate Front Street and provide a gateway to River Park, a water theme park." Suffice to say, this might have meant that if Buffalo Junction was built, River Country likely would have gotten an expansion along with acting as the pool area for the new resort. And if so, I think it's very likely that River Country would still be active today. Back to reality though, River Country continued to be left abandoned. In around 2011 though, Disney began working on something to replace the former water park. This was designated to be a pretty large hotel and Disney Vacation Club resort, planned to be directly on top of River Country. While this hotel wasn't terribly unique, it did have a few interesting features like a boathouse and a winding water feature into a lazy river. The main pool also called for several theming elements to nod back to the River Country Park. This resort was pretty far along development, with the architectural firm even creating a visualization of the timeline and how construction would take place. Construction was proposed to have been started in early 2011 with the demolition of River Country, and by late 2013, a finished hotel. This of course never happened though, and River Country remained abandoned. Over the next few years, some areas were demolished, yet the majority was still left to the elements. And by 2014, guests began to get a little curious as the word got out that River Country was abandoned. I know I did, as I made several videos documenting the yearly progression of decay. Disney was still silent on the park though, only publicly acknowledging the area as backstage, yet still allowing guests to walk right up to the fence for some reason. Over the next few years, the park's condition got even worse, a staggering difference from the once clean and operating attraction. In 2017, Disney had actually filled in the main pool with sand. This was likely an attempt to deter mosquitoes from breeding in the still, algae-filled water, as this was the time when the Zika virus was quite a concern. But still, this was the only update to the park, and River Country was left standing. A year later in 2018, permits were filed by Disney to perform site boring tests around the River Country property. These are usually done to test if the ground is suitable for construction, and with an apparent positive result, finally by October of 2018, 17 years after River Country had closed and was left abandoned, Disney had announced a brand new 900-room hotel and DVC resort. It's called Reflections, a Disney Lakeside Lodge, and is, quote, a classic country lodge reimagined. The resort is pretty modern, with earthy design cues and large open spaces. It also heavily features Disney characters and will have both A-frame villas and treehouse suites that the majority of guests will never be able to afford. Some concept art.
Sorry, I just realized my mic was off. I've actually been talking for the last couple of minutes, so I'm a big dumb.
The resort will also feature a bayou-style restaurant in the former place of the nature trails at River Country. Reflections as a whole is a modern take on the beautiful and detailed craftsmanwork of the Wilderness Lodge, one that has many sharp edges and neutral colors, but also very generic with Disney character statues thrown in for some reason. To me, it looks like a Whole Foods as a hotel, but objectively luxurious, as the developer behind the project is well experienced in building premium properties. My only gripe is that it doesn't belong where it is. All in all, the resort's footprint is massive, completely replacing River Country and then some. So finally, in March of 2019, after so long, the abandoned, now almost unrecognizable water park was being dismantled. It appears some sections of the park were saved, however, the majority of the abandoned facility was completely destroyed. Once demolition was completed, the land grading began. First with filling in the old swimming hole, then clearing out land, digging a retention pond, and everything else that comes with essentially building on top of a swamp. And that brings us to now, with Disney starting major construction on the resort, one with an opening date of 2022. However, with the pandemic
Yeah, that's cool, but is it a 14-barrel flintlock?
Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and I'm here today at the Musée des Armes, part of the Grand Curtius Museum complex in Liège, Belgium, and we are taking a look at what is possibly one of the coolest guns in their entire collection. This is not a single-barrel flintlock, not a double-barrel flintlock, though it does have two actions. It's not a 7-barrel flintlock like a knock volley gun. This is in fact a 14-barrel double knock volley gun style.
14 barrels.
Rifle, actually. 14 heptagonally rifled barrels in 2 clusters of 7 each cluster fired by a single trigger and a single flintlock mechanism. So this is ye old firepower. Let me show you up close. So this is a very impressive gun, both for its technical features, the fact that it is a 14-barreled flintlock, which is just ludicrous to even say, and for the workmanship that went into it, because everything on this gun is just beautifully made. So let's start with the lock plate. We have a bunch of gold damascene on the gun, including a little bit here on the lock plate, and if you can read that, it's pretty tiny. It says Dupe and Company. This was a London gunmaker who manufactured this piece sometime around 1800. Now the story gets really interesting when we look at the top of the gun, because at the back end here, we have some beautiful gold damascene inlay, little hunting scene there. But then we have some marking. This is also gold damascened in, but it says, "With this alone, I'll defend Robro Camp, 1795. Well, we know who owned this gun because he wrote a book in the early 1800s in which he described this gun. It was a Colonel Thomas Thornton, and he was in charge of a regiment of militia. And in 1795, they mutinied at a place called Robro, which was actually spelled R-O-B-R-O-U-G-H, Robro Camp. And apparently this affected him quite deeply. And later on, a few years later, he would have this gun made, theoretically, presumably as a sporting arm, but he's also got down here perdition to conspirators, which tells me he wasn't over that mutiny and harbored some harsh feelings, perhaps, for the people who had revolted out from against his command. But all of this is just really beautifully inlaid there. I do not know what the significance of Glenmore Forest is, or the date of 1793, but we have yet more gold damascene down here on the muzzle end, along with 3 sights. Now, the middle sight is the one you would actually use. We'll get to these other 2 in a moment. We have a front middle sight there, and then you have a middle rear sight back on the central partition. This is really actually a lighter gun than you might expect. I think it can't be much heavier than a standard knock volley gun, despite having twice as many barrels, in part because the barrels are much smaller. These are 7.5 millimeter in diameter barrels, or approximately 30 caliber, and they are all rifled. And specifically, this is like a Whitworth style of rifling, where the inside of the barrel is actually 7-sided. So not hexagonal, not octagonal, but heptagonal or septagonal. I'm honestly not sure exactly what the term is. This is the first time I've run into something that is that way. So the nice thing about this is you don't have to actually engrave lands and grooves into the bullet when you load, but you do conform the bullet, or you in fact would probably cast a 7-sided geometric shaped bullet, kind of like a Whitworth hexagonal bullet. In order to better handle the weight of all 14 of those barrels, this has a vertical front grip on it, which is reasonably comfortable to use. It's at the right point. This nicely balances the gun. The trigger guard is also nicely engraved, and you have 2 triggers, one for the left action and one for the right action. There's our other lock plate. And then the stock is quite thick and heavy, which you would want for the amount of recoil that this thing is going to generate, with a nice, somewhat engraved butt plate and really nice checkering. You might wonder just how much of a pain it would be to load 14 barrels like that. Well, they had a solution for you. Thornton had a loading tool made. So this is kind of like a typical powder throw, except it has 7 powder chambers side by side. So you would fill this whole thing up. You can then use this cover plate to seal them up and scrape off any excess powder. And then you slide this side over, and that aligns these loading tubes with your powder charges there. And then you can, well, what you do is close it, put it over your 7 barrels, and then slide it like that to open it. And that allows you to charge all 7 barrels at the same time, which would be really important. That means you're not going to lose track of which one you have put powder in and which one you haven't. Of course, then you have to seat all 7 projectiles and ram them, and then you do the whole procedure again for the second set of barrels, unless you only want 1 set of barrels. The other accessory that the Liège Museum has for this gun is a second stock. And the second stock only holds 1 set of barrels. Now, this was made separately, and it was probably made in France. It's obviously of a different style. It has some really elaborate wood engraving in it. We have this eagle on the bottom of the grip with a pigeon or other small prey bird in its talons. That's kind of cool. And then we have an engraved lion's head on the top of the stock, along with a motto in French, which is verité gagnée, which means something to the effect of truth in victory. Gagner is to win, or gagner is to win, and vérité is truth. So, but it's a French language motto up there, which suggests, of course, that this was made in France. Colonel Thornton was apparently quite a Francophile. He actually moved to France later in life. The book that he published, in which he described this gun, was about a sporting trip through France. So the way this would work is you have your spare stock. You would take off one of the lock plates. Actually, it would be this lock plate from the double gun, and then you can actually separate the two sets of barrels here. You can take off this central divider and remove one set of barrels. Here's the cross pin that holds the whole assembly together. And you would mount one set of barrels in here, screw the lock plate onto the side, and presto, you have now cut the weight in half, and you have a 7-barreled volley gun at your disposal. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is a pretty phenomenal sort of firearm to take a look at. I've never seen anything quite like this. Between the sheer ludicrous number of barrels and the gold engraving and the workmanship that went into this, not even to mention the fact that it was reconfigurable into a single only 7-barrel carbine. So an extremely interesting and cool piece of firearms history. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Big thanks to the Liège Arms Museum for giving me access to this to show to you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you have a chance in Liège, definitely make a point to stop by and visit the museum. Thanks for watching.
Today, most houses are filled with televisions and devices that have access to all sorts of platforms that produce and stream a mind-numbing amount of content, including the content you're watching today on YouTube. And most of that content today is produced digitally, and it comes into our house through cables or through the internet. But for a long time, most television was broadcast via an antenna, picked up via the airwaves. And inventors like Philo T. Farnsworth and Vladimir Zworykin had developed the technology to be able to do that in the 1920s.
All right, yeah, I think I might take a break from the stream for a bit.
Common in households until after the Second World War, but that doesn't mean that nothing happened in between.
Or at least I'm gonna just put it onto break mode for a little bit.
You guys. Yeah, we're ready to spice things up.
Okay, we're back. Oh no!
Your partner's limitations. I agree. When I was younger, I used to make a lot of stupid mistakes. But I'm ready to learn more.
Get informed. Help stop violence against women. Visit a romantic depot near you and pick up your free pamphlet.
Thanks to Romantic Depot, I now know how to treat women with dignity and respect.
Visit Romantic
Oh
Depot
shit!
Rockland. Go to romanticdepot.com.
When was this made?
Make sure you go visit Romantic Depot for all your Valentine's gifts.
Do you have insurance on this car?
No. What's that?
It's Eagle Woman!
I've got something for you. Look, she's dropping her rates.
You can't beat this.
Are we gonna address the fact that that guy got into an accident because he was like?
Look at those low rates.
Yeah. I'm a little scared right now. I'm not sure I'm allowed to see this. Just skip this specifically. Skip this part specifically.
Talking. My mate Lippy says there's enough fizz in a single skip to make me glow in the dark. So come on, stick one on me. Okay, Lippy, blackout. Hey, fizz-tastic.
Stick a skip on your tongue. It asks for it. Turn up the fun with ball sack. Turn it up. Put the ball sack balloon in the sack.
Ball sack?
Now give it a whack. Turn up the fun with ball sack. Hit it.
Oh man, you guys want to play with my Balzac? I'm telling you, like, I've never had more fun than playing with my Balzac. I'm not sure if I'm comfortable seeing these kids playing with their Balzac. They knew what they were doing. Now this is my fetish. It's rather rude to call.
Look, I can't talk now. I'm naked.
He's not naked, he's wearing underwear. And socks and a hat. That is not naked. Something about vinegaroons? Yeah.
How about this guy? Ooh, how about her? Hold on, we should tell this guy. Sir, if you're looking for a great gift, we'll be at Famous Bar. Thank you. Why is everybody staring at us?
Honey, we're irresistible.
Oh, yeah.
Where will all the great gifts be this holiday?
Buy our gifts! Buy our gifts! Buy our gifts!
Now remember, act dignified.
I hate these viral web app ads that, like, never have anything to do with the actual game they're advertising. They just, like, kind of steal assets from other animated things.
For you, my sweet. I see you are overcome with love. Or could it be congestion and other seasonal nasal allergy symptoms? Your congestion is smart.
Only Nasonex is clinically proven to both treat and help prevent most seasonal nasal allergy symptoms, including congestion. Side effects were generally mild and included headache,
Only
viral infection,
Nasonex.
sore throat, nosebleeds, and coughing.
Fuck those other allergy medications. They're little
To
bitches.
treat and help prevent most seasonal nasal allergy symptoms, Nasonex is the one. Talk to your doctor.
This is gonna be one of those things I have no idea what they're advertising. Just end the torture. Tell me what garbage you're selling, please. Oh, it's Cricket Wireless. Are these the mascots they use to promote themselves? They're horrendous. I feel like I'm high right now. I was just about to skip that if it went on any longer.
I don't have enough money to pay all my bills.
Rest easy, the cash fairy can help.
Cash fairy.
At Tennessee Quick Cash, new customers can get up to $1,000 cash today, and the first cash advance is free. It's quick, easy, and confidential. Call
Hey, that
Tennessee
cash
Quick
fairy
Cash
is gonna
today,
skin flinch you. Don't trust him.
Or apply online at TennesseeQuickCash.com.
Pay your cash advance.
Those payday loan places, even if they have a really sexy fairy.
I'm not picking it up. You pick it up.
I'm not picking it up.
Well, somebody's got to pick it up.
I'll pick it up. They're clean. Cuz my hand is clean. Oh yeah, I'm Charmin clean. That's how I know they're clean.
Charmin Ultra Strong is woven like a washcloth.
What?
It just cleans better.
What was the angle of this?
It does have a point.
Enjoy the go with Charmin.
I think someone pointed out one time the entire like commercials for Charmin is like these bears perpetually cannot wipe their asses. Like these bears just perpetually have shitty buttholes running around. Tiger. Tiger, tiger. Tiger, tiger. Tiger. Tiger smack wolf. Tiger smack more wolf. Bird. Birdie. Birdie, birdie. Oh, birdie. Nyeh, 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 nyeh. See you later, alligator. Life of Black Tiger.
Describe the thick, juicy, fruity flavors of Airhead's fruit spinners. It's like trying to wah 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 wah. You know what I mean? It's as if the vitamin C charged flavor crystals are taking you on a ride. What a way to unwind.
Airhead's fruit spinners with a big fruity flavor crazy enough to make your taste buds spin.
Un jeune qui ira loin, ça ne se voit pas au premier coup d'œil. À la caisse d'épargne, on a décidé de donner sa chance à chacun.
Oh, plus fort!
Oui, patron. Caisse d'épargne, première banque des jeunes.
I don't know what that was about.
Who are you? What are you doing here, and where are my horses?
Ah! 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 No! Ah! No! Oh god! No! 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 This is too much.
Spins.
Oh god. Oh god. I'm sorry guys. I'm genuinely sorry for that. That was a bit too much.
Dominoes, so mouth-bogglingly tasty, you just...
I'm actually like almost crying. That was so messed up. What the fuck?
I hope the toothpaste falls off your toothbrush every time you run it underwater.
Oh my gosh. Goddamn cosplay weebs. Yeah, I love how this is cosplay, just going, their head going back and forth with a mask on. Don't be this mother. Buy your son Vinegaroon's hot sauce.
Winner taco.
Wiener taco? That looks delicious, but wiener taco? Okay. What? Okay, I heard gelato. Oh, he's a polar. What? What? Wiener tacos that turn you into a bear. Whoa. This one is really cursed. Holy. Whoa, is he showing his peanut on camera?
Vidd haza a nevetést.
Peachy は不安だった。いつもはマリオに助けられるのに。ルイージが主役の大冒険。高いジャンプだけど滑る。
Why did it look like Mario was like about to do something really bad to Princess Peach? That was not comfortable. Fortnite. Fortnite. Wow. Pork and egg sausages. Pork and egg sausages, new from Walls.
Pork and egg sausages, new from Walls. Pork and egg sausages, new from Walls.
Pork and egg sausages. Pork and egg sausages, new from Walls. Ingredients: pork, egg. What are the ingredients? Pork, egg, rusk, milk powder, and seasoning. Huh.
For the brightest colors always. What
Thanks for Nintendo 64.
That teddy bear's seen some shit.
Explosive tank action for up to 4 players.
Nissan Cup Noodles.
Oh, look at my big boy eating his veggies.
What?
Cup noodles very veggie. Try new vegetarian soy sauce flavor with a full serving of veggies
dear.
and no added MSG.
Ugh. This guy's like, copyright law? What the hell is that?
Infantil e adulto, 9,90. Sandália Cristal da Brink, 19,90.
Modern life is complicated. Life administrations are such hard work. Why can't technology make life simple? Well, today it can. Say hello to Otto Sergey.
Hello, I'm here to simplify your life.
Otto Sergey is just like real Sergey, but without the fleas. So relax while he do all the stuff you don't want to. Let's start with energy. If he thinks you're paying too much...
Alexander, I just found you a better energy deal. Would you like to switch?
Sure.
High five.
See how Otto Sergey could make switching the energy easier. Compare the market. Keep life simple.
In my professional opinion, those prices are crazy, and there's too much stock for you to handle. You need to stop this madness.
No, I'm Mad Harry, and no one's gonna stop these bargains. We've got a huge range of tools, art equipment, costumes, toys, homewares, pet accessories, and more.
Great choices, great value, mad savings here for you. It's madness at Mad Harry's.
It's madness! goodness, at Mad Harry's.
Mr. Crispy's in the house, baby.
Wait, is this a chip porno? Okay. Whoa!
É mais divertido com Ruffles. Ruffles, a batata da onda.
Berry Biscuit Boy sets out down to the lake to splash about. A lake of purest craven gale, just creamy, fresh and cool and pale. Though mother warned, don't swim too long. He dips and dunks, what could go wrong?
That's no.
So
Whoa.
listen well to this milky tale. You could lose your head over Cravendale. Cravendale.
Wow.
Ice and heart reveal with icy water.
I'm having a hard time reacting anymore because I think I've become dead on the inside.
The extreme taste of Tang in a glass. And in a pouch.
That about 8% of my audience are female, yet I myself have only ever made the very male-centered Should You Fab To series. And while I well know that anyone claiming to be a girl online is just that, a guy in real life, I thought, what the hell, let's humor the 3 actual female viewers out there by taking a more sensual approach to reviewing hentai with a spin-off of a spin-off series that we're gonna call Should You Slake To. Because as someone who's so under-equipped to deal with women that I get uncomfortable around guys with long hair, I'm the perfect pick for a person telling you and your girlfriends what you should and shouldn't flick your bean to. In fact, I cannot think of a single person out there who'd be better suited to taking up the task of reviewing hentai from a female perspective. Slaking, for the uneducated amongst you, is a fancy term for female masturbation, which differs heavily from its much simpler male counterpart. As while a man might spot a silhouette vaguely resembling the female body, and upon visual contact revert his mental state back to the Stone Ages and spontaneously rock phrases like,
Oh, Grug need milky. Grug need big milky.
you can't just slap a semi-chub in front of a girl and expect her to want to suck it. You gotta build some character around it first. Like, what's the guy's name that it's attached to? What sort of personality does he have? Does he have blue eyes as deep as the Atlantic and as easy to get lost in? Does his speckled abs put that of modern-day bodybuilders to shame? Maybe he has a fiery, ever-burning passion for a profession which is just as manly as he himself is. Like, maybe he's, well, I don't know, a firefighter. And, oh, look, it's the main love interest of today's show. Because Yubisaki Kara Honki no Netsujo is without a doubt one of, if not the most female-oriented hentai that I've ever watched, for reasons that I'll get into in a little bit. At its core, it's a love story between our main characters Yuro and Soma, and the slow gradual build-up that the two of them have towards creating a stable relationship, or at least so I would say, if not for the fact that this thing moves at 183 miles per hour. The hentai spread over 8 episodes, each with about 5 minutes of runtime, and they had a ton of stuff that they wanted to cram in here, and a lot of it is front-loaded in the first couple of episodes, so as to get through it in a timely manner. Because when you have a big looming sign in the animation studio that says minimum 1 sex scene per episode, and you now have less than 5 minutes to make a shoujo lovemaking scene between 2 people that, frankly, barely even know each other, and rape is not involved for once, you're pretty much set up for a jumbled scenario right from the get-go. For example, in the first 3 minutes of the show, we see Ro meet Soma for the first time ever at a mixer, go home to sleep at her apartment, have the apartment burn down as she sleeps, have Soma save her from said apartment as it burns, have Soma convince her post-apartment burning to stay at his house until he can find an alternative, have her move in at Soma, she'd still have her be pretty held back about the whole physical relationships thing. She splits the apartment up into 2 parts, one that is hers and one that is his. She oversteps the boundary into his, Soma grabs her, she is now convinced, and they start diddling each other.
それはほら
And that's just the first 3 minutes. Though you might have guessed, because of the blazing speed at which the show...
Oh, hey!
And that's just the first 3 minutes. Though you might...
Look, the Cerberus girls.
I've guessed, because of the blazing speed at which the show moves and the unwritten rule that there has to be at least one naughty scene in each episode, the relationship between the main characters can feel somewhat superficial, at least during the first part of the show. Now, granted, this is somewhat made up for later on as we get some actual development between the two, but those first 3 or so episodes just really left me with an odd taste in my mouth, as most of the smut scenes there just seem really unwarranted considering the love story that they're supposedly trying to deliver. But what about the actual naughty scenes, I hear you ask? Well, this is where the female-centric thing that I mentioned earlier comes into play, as you don't get to see why this show warranted the English title of Fire in His Fingertips. A flirty fireman ravishes me with his smoldering gaze. God, that's
yummy.
The show's saucy scenes are very heavily and obviously catered towards a female audience. This comes in the form of, for example, the show not having a single blowjob scene throughout its entire runtime, yet still having it feature tons of scenes of Soma teasing the ever-living fuck out of Yo. The framing during these scenes is also very focused on the guy, as you often get a shot with the main object being his back, arms, chest, or ass. Supposedly you yourself can get a shot with the main object being his back, arms, chest, or
I like whoever animated that.
Can imagine what it's like getting pinned down and fucked by this quote-unquote flirty fireman. There's also a lot of play with size going on, as Soma just towers over Yo and often has her in a sort of protective hug or carries her around bridal style, which I've gotta admit is pretty cute. The animation is another thing I feel I have to mention when talking about this one, as it really is rather unique for a hentai. By anime metrics, it looks like your box standard show that you've seen 5 million times before, but that's just the thing, it looks like an anime. And as someone who considers himself a bit of a hentai connoisseur, when you're in an environment where basically every other show that comes out, almost regardless of which studios behind it, can be classified by its art style and animation alone as looking like a hentai, that is some of the highest praise that I can give in regards to animation. In fact, that tremendous leap in quality
looks like a hentai.
You should check out the show, despite the first thing I saw from it being the otherwise somewhat dubious cover art. And if you're sitting there as a lone guy viewer thinking, I don't know, Hard, seems kinda gay to me, I assure you, there is nothing gay about this show. Even if the men are all attractive, it's all still male on female action. Sure, it's focused on the guy during the sex scenes, and the whole point of the show is to appeal to women and possibly people of an alternative sexuality. Oh, okay, it sounds a little gay, but trust me, it's not. Look, to help me reach this conclusion, I had a professional homosexual on the case, and he will back me up on this. Just take a listen to this.
Professional homosexual!
Yo, dude.
Sam, tell me straight up, is Yubisaki Kara Honki no Netsujo gay?
Bro, that shit's so gay.
What the fuck? Personally, I am definitely not the target audience. But after you get through the initial search of exposition, the story takes a more laid-back approach and just settles for telling you a genuine feeling story between two people as they slowly fall for each other and eventually get together. Pair that with some great animation and some smoking hot dudes, and you're just in for an all-around good time. So if you find yourself in the category of people who occasionally enjoy love-filled vanilla hentai without rape, ugly bastards, harems, or shitty haircuts, did you slick to Yubisaki Kara Honki no Netsujo? Yes, you can fap to it too.
Fuck ですね。Fuck, shit, cold など、fucking cold など、無用 fucking cute ですね。Oh my fucking see ですね。Oh my fucking see。はい。それはもう超マジかすごいみたいな。そうまあそれでね今回ちょっとテストを受けて、まあそのテストをねちゃんと知ってもらうためにうちはもう本気で受けました。もう笑いとかをそうもう求めずに本当にガチで。じゃあもうちょっとつまんない放送になっちゃう可能性もあるぐらいですね。そうもう Yes, the mirror was kind to drink our stay in Sydney. 答えはミラーさんは歯の飲み物のため滞
I
在してい
don't
た
have
私たち
Hollow
の
Knight,
シドニーにいまし
unfortunately.
た。 みほぱいさん、どこから突っ込んでいいのか全くわからないんですけども、みほぱいさん、まずですね、買った勉強のために買った参考書ですか、何ですか？はい。そちらをちょっともう一度見ていただいて、問題を正しく写せているかどうか確認していただいてもよいですかね。マジ？ミスター・ミラー was kind おそらく to us だったのではないでしょうか。to us なるほど to us ではなく to us が to us と書いてしまったばかりに歯が出てきてしまったのでは。なるほど、そういうことか。なのでこれをやはりしっかり問題の写し間違いがなければ、もしかしたら逆にですよ、みやぱいさん、これ to us だった場合の訳を教えてくださいよ。to us ですか？はい。ミラーさんは、はい。to us kind to us 私たちがシドニーに滞在していて、カインドがわかんないんですよね。カインドというのはですね、例えばこんな風に使います。ミオ先輩 is kind to me。こんな感じで使うとどういう意味かわかりますかね？カインド厳しいってこと？違います、逆です。優しいってことなんですよ。優しいってこと。はい。なるほど。親切ですとか、優しいですとか、そのような意味になるんです。なるほど。じゃあなんでドリンクが出てくるんですか？なんでですか？どこから出てきたんですか？どっからドリンクが出てきたんでしょう？じゃあミラーさんは私たちに優しく、シドニーでドリンクをくれたってことですか？みやぱいさん、これドリンクじゃないですね。during という、ドリンクですと DRINK というね、になりまして、こちら during と
What games do I have?
なんとかをしている間にというものに使われる単語なんですよ。
Oh, if you're on Discord, check. I think I have my Steam profile linked on Discord. Let me check.
歯の飲み物って何ですか？なんか気持ち悪いですよ。歯の飲み物、トゥースのスペルを今回確実に覚えててください。トゥースのスペル教えてください。はい、TOOTH です。TOOTH。確かにこれはトゥースだ。これはトゥースでしょ。これはトゥースだった。こちらが歯ですね。覚えました。
Yeah, I should have my Steam account connected with my Discord profile. So if you go on there, you should see all the games I have on Steam.
日本語では20歳とか言わないですもんね。言わないですよね。複数形というクソめんどくさいものが英語にはありますのが、ちょっとめんどいですけど、ぜひ覚えてください。まず単語その1、はい、shit、shit という言葉になります。shit、はい。
Seat。
こちらですね。この言葉は非常に万能でして、もういい意味も悪い意味も全ての意味も含むことができる。日本語で言うと、くそー、でもクソかわいい、クソムカつくなどのクソですね。このクソに値する言葉になります。クソに値する。はい。なので全ての言葉の前につければその言葉を強調することができるんですね。はあはあはあはあ。はい。ファックですね。ファック。はい。FUCK と言いまして、こちらの言葉。やばい。She
actually spelled it FACK。
全ての言葉の前につけていただくことで使えます。はい、そうなんだ。さすがです。これ YouTube AI のために FUCK のところを A にするというのは、ファックですよ。という時、はい。Shit cold cold など、fucking cold などという風に使っていただければ、めっちゃ寒いんですけど、などと言って、海外の人たちにも、なるほど、今ミオパイセンはめっちゃくそ寒いんだなということを分かっても
Well,
ら
you
える。
gotta add like shit that's cold or fuck that's cold.
これって言ってしまうと女子高生が使う言葉みたいな感じになるってこと？そうですよ。なんだろう。ミオかわいい。ミオファッキンキュートですね。ミオファッキンキュート。
Mio fucking cute.
ミオファッキンキュートシット。これは覚えた方がいいですね。これはファンの皆さんが言うことですからね、ミオパイセン。マジそうなんだねってぐらい。
Oh my god.
ファッキンキュートですよ。ミオファッキンキュートシット。これは覚えた方がいいです。
Mio fucking cute as shit.
マジそうなんだねってぐらい納得しました。Oh, I fucking see という感じで使っていただければ。Oh, I see fucking see. Oh, I fucking see ですね。Oh, I fucking see.
She's getting these lessons so wrong.
マジかすごいみたいな。そうです。もう大納得してもう視聴者の方に論破されてしまった人に時にぜひ使ってください。なるほど。
I think I might just shut down the stream for a bit, because I'm just kind of throwing videos out there right now, and, just trying to think what game I probably want to play. Yeah, I don't know, but I feel like I'm doing nothing in this stream right now, so just take a break for a bit. I'll close it down, so it's, I don't know, I just don't see any point in just leaving it if I'm not doing something. I know, do people just like to come here and chill? I don't know. Anyways, everyone take care, and thanks again for watching. Follow me on Twitter. I have a Patreon too, if you feel like donating to help support the channel. And I have a Discord, so if you want to join the Discord, let me know. You can contact me here on Twitch, send me a message on Twitter. I'm sure you'll figure out some way to get hold of me if you want, and I'll invite you to the Discord. Anyways, everybody take care, have fun, and I'll see you next stream. Bye-bye!